Welcome to the Dark Psychology Mastery series, where we explore the shadows of human behavior to uncover the secrets of manipulation and deception. Today, we're going to tackle a question that has puzzled philosophers and psychologists for centuries: why do people lie? It's a question that has far-reaching implications, from the way we interact with each other in our personal relationships, to the way we conduct business and politics. To help us navigate this complex topic, we'll be drawing on the insights of Carl Jung, a renowned psychologist who spent his life studying the human psyche. Jung believed that the human mind is composed of both conscious and unconscious forces, and that our behavior is shaped by a delicate interplay between these two realms. As we'll see, this interplay is crucial in understanding why people lie, and how we can become more aware of the hidden forces that drive our own behavior. So, let's start by asking a provocative question: what if everything you thought you knew about lying was wrong? What if, instead of being a simple moral failing, lying was a complex psychological phenomenon that reveals deeper truths about human nature? As Carl Jung once said, the lie is a betrayal of the self, and a betrayal of others. But what does this really mean, and how can we use this insight to become more honest and authentic in our own lives? To answer these questions, we'll need to embark on a journey into the depths of the human psyche, where the forces of deception and manipulation hold sway. So, if you're ready to confront the darker aspects of human nature, and to uncover the secrets of the lie, then let's dive in. One of the most fascinating insights from Carl Jung's work is the concept of the shadow self. According to Jung, the shadow self refers to the repressed or hidden aspects of our personality, which we often deny or hide from others. The shadow self is the part of us that contains our darkest impulses, our deepest fears, and our most shame-filled desires. And it's precisely this shadow self that drives us to lie, according to Jung. When we're confronted with a situation that triggers our shadow self, we may feel compelled to deceive others, or even ourselves, in order to avoid feelings of guilt, shame, or anxiety. For example, imagine a person who is struggling with addiction, but is too afraid to admit it to their friends and family. In order to avoid feelings of shame and rejection, they may lie about their behavior, even if it means putting themselves and others at risk. This is just one example of how the shadow self can drive us to deceive others, and ourselves. As Jung once said, the shadow is the seat of the unconscious, and it's the source of all our creative and destructive impulses. By acknowledging and integrating our shadow self, we can become more aware of the hidden forces that drive our behavior, and we can begin to develop more authentic and honest relationships with others. But how can we apply this insight in our own lives, and how can we use it to overcome the temptation to lie? To answer these questions, we'll need to explore some real-life examples of how the shadow self can drive us to deceive others, and how we can use Jung's insights to develop more self-awareness and integrity. Another key insight from Carl Jung's work is the concept of the persona. According to Jung, the persona refers to the social mask or image that we present to the world. The persona is the part of us that wants to be liked, admired, and accepted by others, and it's often the source of our most ingrained habits and behaviors. But when our persona becomes too rigid or inflexible, it can lead to feelings of disauthenticity and disconnection from our true selves. And it's precisely this disconnection that can drive us to lie, according to Jung. When we're trapped in a persona that doesn't reflect our true nature, we may feel compelled to deceive others in order to maintain the illusion of perfection or control. For example, imagine a person who feels pressure to present a perfect image on social media, even if it means hiding their flaws and imperfections. In order to maintain this illusion, they may lie about their accomplishments, their relationships, or even their feelings. This is just one example of how the persona can drive us to deceive others, and how we can become trapped in a cycle of dishonesty and disauthenticity. As Jung once said, the persona is a mask that we wear to hide our true selves, but it's also a mask that can suffocate us if we're not careful. By developing a more flexible and authentic persona, we can become more aware of the ways in which we deceive others, and we can begin to develop more honest and meaningful relationships. But how can we apply this insight in our own lives, and how can we use Jung's concepts to develop more self-awareness and integrity? To answer these questions, we'll need to explore some practical strategies for developing a more authentic and honest persona, and for overcoming the temptation to lie. So, how can we apply the insights of Carl Jung to our own lives, and how can we use his concepts to develop more self-awareness and integrity? One practical strategy is to practice self-reflection and self-inquiry. By taking the time to examine our own thoughts, feelings, and behaviors, we can become more aware of the hidden forces that drive us to lie, and we can begin to develop more authentic and honest relationships with others. Another strategy is to cultivate a sense of curiosity and openness, rather than judgment and criticism. By embracing our flaws and imperfections, and by being more willing to take risks and make mistakes, we can become more comfortable with uncertainty and ambiguity, and we can develop a more flexible and adaptive persona. Finally, we can practice mindfulness and meditation, in order to become more aware of our thoughts and feelings in the present moment, and to develop a greater sense of self-awareness and self-acceptance. By using these strategies, we can begin to develop a more authentic and honest persona, and we can overcome the temptation to lie. As Carl Jung once said, the greatest discovery of all time is that a person can change their future by merely changing their attitude. By changing our attitude towards ourselves and others, and by developing a more self-aware and honest persona, we can create a brighter and more compassionate future, and we can become the best version of ourselves. In conclusion, the dark psychology of lying is a complex and multifaceted phenomenon that reveals deeper truths about human nature. By exploring the insights of Carl Jung, we can gain a deeper understanding of the hidden forces that drive us to deceive others, and we can develop more self-awareness and integrity. Remember, the greatest lie is the one we tell ourselves, and the greatest truth is the one we discover about ourselves. So, if you want to uncover the secrets of the lie, and to develop a more authentic and honest persona, then be sure to subscribe to our channel for more content on dark psychology, stoicism, and personal development. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.